Hello and welcome, Stand Up World, episode 55, Double Nickels. It's a special one for me, my best buddy. I love him, Dave Coulier, my little brother, my roommate. I love this guy. Say hello to Patrick Arnold.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Mike.
Our producer extraordinaire in from Boston on the Streamathon. Patrick, you're a fan of Dave Coulier's, right?
Big fan. Grew up on Full House, so I always love talking to these guys. It's so surreal for me to talk to them.
Yeah, me too. I can't. No, I'm kidding. I love the guy. I grew up. This guy and I, we've been in it from the beginning, in it to win it. I love him so much. I'm so proud to be his buddy, and let's just do this. I don't even want to talk about him. You know what I mean? Let's just go.
He needs no intro.
David Coulier. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm in our hometown of Detroit.
And Dave, how did you get into show business? How did you get started? Why did you want to be a comedian?
Well, there was a little boy named Mikey Binder, and that little boy inspired me.
And by the way, when your mother caught the two of you in the closet there, that didn't go well.
You know, I didn't think we were going to talk about that. So,
Dave, we're talking about everything. We're talking about everything, Dave. This is going to be talked about as the podcast that ruined your career.
Too late.
It's too late.
Too late. It's already happened.
Now, let me ask you a question. Are you in your new house? You're at the new house, right?
I'm in our new house here on beautiful Lake St. Clair. You've been here. And we're inching our way towards being out of all the boxes that we have stowed away.
And I'll tell you, for those who don't know, Dave built this amazing house on the lake, and he built it himself. You know, he and Mel decided, his wife, Melissa, the beautiful Melissa Coulier, decided what they wanted, and Dave just did it. Dave just taught himself everything there was to know about home building, and he's the contractor, and which is very much Dave. You know, Dave can just learn anything. You know, I remember years ago, Dave had this great joke that I used to love. He talk about the kids at school, kids at school, and the bully would come up to him and go, "Stop it! Stop pushing me around before I construct these. I'll construct a weapon to defend myself." And that's kind of Dave. Dave could just build. He'll learn how to do anything. And he built the most beautiful house.
Well, thank you. I didn't really know what I was getting into when I decided to build our home here, but I went to contractor school and learned as much as I could, but they don't teach you how to build a house. They don't, say here, when you grip the hammer, you want to use a 20-ounce hammer. You want to use this kind of a glue gun. You want to use this kind of drill bit. None of that stuff. They teach you, these are OSHA rules. This is how you should treat your subcontractors. This is, medical insurance for your employees. Always make sure you have a first aid kit standing by. There was nothing about building a house. So I asked a lot of really dumb questions along the way, but I got smarter as I asked all those dumb questions.
No, it was cool. It was cool to see. And as you know, I'm from a family of builders, and my dad's a builder, my brother's a builder, my uncles were builders, and my buddy Clay is a builder. And so I loved seeing you in that world, and you dealing with all your subs and I just think you did.
When you say subs, you're talking about lunchtime, right? All the subs I ate while I was building this place.
Dave,
That's what you're talking about, right?
Dave, don't make me hungry because I'll stop this podcast right in the middle and I'll order a pizza.
Yeah, who are you trying to kid with that exercycle in the background there?
That's not an exercycle.
What is that?
It's a piano.
Oh, I thought it was some kind of piece of exercise equipment.
There's no exercise equipment at this house, Dave. Dave, you know, when I want to work out, I order a pizza and I eat it really fast. You know that. I curl.
It's just like getting a
curl
good
the
workout.
slices.
Mike, you're the only guy I know who, when he works out, actually gains calories.
Yeah, that's it. That's because I'm juggling hot dogs. Patrick, you got to understand something. Dave and I, first of all, this guy and I, we have done more laughing. We lived together for almost 7 years. Okay. And we was, but one time, not long ago, actually, we drove around downtown Detroit and I just made him go to more junk food places. And I just kept going, Dave, you're still hungry. And we ate at more hot dog joints.
I didn't think it was possible, but in one day, spending it driving around with Mike, I actually got a pot back. I got a fat back.
But I it's funny because I know you have so many fans, but I wish they knew your true humor. You know, one thing about Bob, they all got to see Bob's dirty side. Very few people get to see the funny side of Dave that I love. And I get it.
Well, I call that, that's my locker room stuff, I grew up playing hockey as a young kid here in Detroit, and I always loved the locker room because you could say the most outrageous things and you have a built-in audience of 20 other guys sitting there laughing. And I grew up on that locker room humor, but then when I started doing stand-up comedy, and this, I don't say this too often, but I was so afraid that my family and friends were going to come and see me and go, he has a filthy mouth. And so I always did a clean show. And then when I was 19, I was at the Comedy Store. Jay Leno came up to me, and he was the biggest comedian in the world when I was 19 at the Comedy Store. He was on a different level than all of us, other than maybe Dave Letterman or Robin Williams, George Carlin, Richard Pryor. And so Jay came out to me and goes, hey, I hear you're this kid from Detroit. He says, I saw you set. You're nice and clean. He says, if you work clean, you'll work everywhere. You'll never have to change your stuff. And that always stayed with me. I always thought, he's right. If I just do clean shows every single time, I'll never have to worry who's in the audience. And so I just kind of adopted that as, my operating system, and I've just kind of stuck with it.
No, I get it. I get it. And listen, it's worked for you. You're amazing. I just know nobody makes me laugh harder than you. And what you call your locker room. I mean, basically, Dave invented the grab 'em by the pussy joke. I mean,
I love it.
Dave says some stuff, man. I've been walking with Dave and doubled over and fallen on the ground maybe 30 times in my life, which is and you got to understand something, Patrick. You know this. I think laughter is the greatest medicine. I love to laugh, and I've been driving around with Dave where I've had to pull over the car if I'm driving and just he makes me laugh harder than anybody. We've got, by the way, Dave,
what's the craziest thing that happened to you guys when you were roommates? Because I know I'm young 20s, have roommates right now, and it's like super fun, and it's never it's a lawless life that we live. But what was the funniest thing you guys did in Hollywood together, living together? I can't imagine.
Oh boy. How long is your show, Mike?
Well, oh, by the way,
yeah.
listen, our place, Dave. We used to Dave would have Shandling and Saget over, and we had a bunch of comedians that lived in our building, Alan Stevens and Mitchell Walters, and I remember Howie Mandel used to come
Bruce
over, and
Baum.
Bruce
We
Baum, and
our bikes used to hang. We would hang our bikes up on hooks in our apartment, and Bruce Baum came in one day. He goes, "Oh my gosh, your bikes committed suicide.
That's awesome.
They hung themselves." And
Hilarious.
and
we
Dave
had this
was really straight. Dave was straight. Dave, and I was like a pothead and a druggie and an alcoholic. And Dave, our apartment had a loft up above, and that was Dave's bedroom up there. And I would sit there with these comedians, Ollie Joe Prater and Bruce Baum and
Alan Stevens.
Alan Stevens and I mean, God, and we'd smoke pot all through the night. And Dave would go, "Man, you guys, you're getting me high. I don't,
Trying to sleep.
you don't understand, man. I'm having the weirdest dreams." And he was like, I used to call him Christian Shine Boy.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, Christian Shine Boy.
Oh my
Well,
God.
here's the deal. I grew up a jock. And so when I got to California, I wanted to still play ice hockey. I wanted to still be a runner because I was only 19. So it wasn't like, I had this long history behind me. I was coming out of high school and moving to California. So I wanted to retain some sense of normalcy and try doing that when you're living with Mike. So
Yeah, exactly.
I really tried to hang on. I'm an airplane pilot, so I would go to Santa Monica Airport or Van Nuys Airport, and I would go and I would rent a plane and fly around. And the comedians would go, "You're flying airplanes around? What's the matter with you? Why aren't you you can smoke pot and do coke while you're flying?" And I would run and I would bike, and I just kind of I would try and get to bed at a reasonable hour. I would get up early and exercise. And my roommates, up till 5 a.m. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night with the munchies, and I was like, I finally figured it out. I'm like, "Oh, I know why, because I'm smoking all of their pot."
Totally.
Oh my God, that's classic.
Tell him how you taught me how to run. How you got me into running, because
I
became
did.
a
I
big
got Mike into
runner.
run. Now, when I first met Mike, he was living off of Sunset Boulevard on this big high rise. And
Mike, how old were you at this time?
I was 19 or 20, and maybe Mike was 22, 23,
Okay.
right?
Okay. All right.
So Mike lived in this
No,
high rise.
I was 21. If you were 19. or
Yeah,
20.
2 years. 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I said
wow,
I was
okay.
20, so he'd have been 22.
Yep.
So Mike had this Toyota Celica, and he had this apartment in this high rise, right in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard near the Comedy Store.
Okay, Mike.
And man, I just thought this guy has got it together.
Right.
And so, when I first moved to LA, Mike sat next to Mitzi Shore during my audition and made sure she watched my set. And then I was looking for the light on stage, and it never came up. And it was because Mike was sitting there. She said, "Let him just go. He's funny." And I never would have had that experience if Mike hadn't done that for me. So we moved forward. I live at the Crest Hill house behind the Comedy Store where Mike is living, and I don't have an apartment. And so I move into the Crest Hill house with Argus Hamilton, Mike, and another actor who did Marlboro commercials named John Medley. So these guys are living up there, and it is like a Coke factory. It's just, and all the comedians would come over after their shows at the Comedy Store, and they'd come up and party. And I had this little room, and Argus Hamilton
Well,
lived there.
you got to know, Patrick. This was a house above the hill
I've
behind
seen it.
the
Yeah, no,
Comedy
I've-
Store.
right there.
Fresno
Mitzi
house,
Shore
right?
owned.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
So I go on the road, and I come back a week later off the road, and all my clothes are missing, right? And I'm like, somebody stole all my stuff, right? So I go to the Westwood Comedy Store that night, and Jack Leonpacker, Argus Hamilton's assistant, is wearing my shirt.
Oh my
I said,
God.
"Hey, you got my shirt on. You're the guy who stole all my clothes." He goes, "No, I didn't." I go, "You better give me my shirt back now," right? So he gave me all my clothes back, So then I said, "The heck with this. I'm going to find an apartment." And then Mike and I got a place in Westwood together at on Veteran, right? It was on Veteran Ave.
Veteran Avenue.
So we found this great apartment, and it was so out of my league, but I was like, I guess I can afford this, Mike's got a lot of money, obviously, but I'm struggling here. So we became roommates. So I was still running. Now keep in mind, Mike had no dresser. He would put all of his clothes
God.
right. He had a mattress,
No.
and then he would go to the laundry, and they would give him his clothes back, and he would just put them on the floor. So all his clothes were in piles on the floor, and I'm just like, this guy's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this, because I had like cabinets and nice
Fold your
hangers
laundry.
upstairs, folded laundry,
Yep.
all this stuff.
Everything was piles for me.
So we were the odd couple. We were the odd couple. So I would run around UCLA twice, which is 8 miles.
Wow.
So one day, Mike, like smoking a cigarette, he goes, "You know what? I'm gonna come with you on a run." I go, "Okay, it sounds good." So he goes and puts these tennis shoes on, and the heel was at such an angle. I was like, "There's no way he's going to be able to run in those," right? Because he'd worn the heel off on each side.
Yep.
So I'm looking at him, and he's running. And I go, "You need to stretch first." He goes, "Nah, I'll just run." Okay, sounds good, butthead.
I was like, that's a stretch.
Yeah.
Me
So,
neither, stretch.
so Mike's like, I dropped a sandwich earlier today and picked it up. I stretched.
That was my stretch.
That was my stretch. So I start running at a really slow pace, and Mike gets to the first side street, and he's hacking and wheezing and coughing, and he's just like, I'm like, "Are you okay, buddy?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm good. So now this is the kicker to the story. So I go and I finish my run. He comes back, and he says, I'm gonna try to go a little further." So the next day he kind of went with me, and he went probably maybe a mile. And I was like, "Wow, okay, I guess maybe he's serious about this." So he eventually went with me all the way around UCLA. He got sober, and we actually ran around UCLA after that, like twice, 8 miles around campus twice.
Regularly.
And he's been physically fit ever since. It's amazing.
Wow.
We would run that. We would do that thing regularly.
That is cool.
Yeah, back then I was probably running 50 to 60 miles a week.
Yeah.
Jesus. So
Yeah,
you saved
and
Mike's life, essentially.
I don't know if we go that far, but back then I probably weighed about 160 pounds, Yeah.
But you're forgetting the part, the middle. Before I got sober, I would just get so high, and we would run, and the early Sony Walkmans, and we would just listen to Quadrophenia just so loud, and that's how I got the first 4 miles out.
That's
And
awesome.
Finally, I got sober.
We loved Quadrophenia. That was our favorite album. It's still probably my all-time favorite album. I listened to it yesterday. I listened to a couple cuts. But I will tell you this: Mike and I became instant brothers from the time we met in Detroit when I opened for him. You get the chance to be a brother with somebody a couple times in your life. And I had it happen with Mike, and you know, my God, the stories we could tell, the stuff we've been through together. Uh,
Hey,
just
by the way, Dave, can I just show you this? There's a lost episode. Do you remember the TV show Davy and Goliath?
of course I do. I used to do impressions of him in my act.
Yes, so did I. But you
Yeah.
remember that show, right?
Yes.
There was a lost episode that I found. Show this lost episode
Right. All
of
right.
Davy and Goliath. Davy, does God love dogs?
Why, yes, of course he does, Goliath, especially when they don't shit in the house.
Well, that makes sense. Davy, does God love Dave
That's a
Coulier?
good question, Goliath. He does when he tells dick and pussy and retard jokes when he's hanging around his buddy Mike Binder. Not so much when he's all full housey and being Christian shine boy and shit. God likes Dave Coulier telling butt plug jokes. Dad, is Uncle Joey from Full House gay?
I don't know if he's written gay. I mean, I know he's happy. I know he likes to sit on pine cone shaped objects, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's it more or less. I'm just gonna go be alone in my room for a while. Thanks.
Did you ever see that episode?
I now just now, I'm seeing it for the first time.
It's a classic.
Man, that is
It's a classic.
it is a classic.
And when little
Man.
Davy starts to wink, thinking about Uncle Joey,
Wow.
it was that and when Ellen came out episode that really brought the gay movement into full glory in America.
Yeah, it's a whole new way of thinking about stop frame animation, Beautiful.
I used to Patrick, I used to tease Dave so bad because and the things, the jokes that he would make, I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but he used to make Bob Saget laugh so hard, like to the point where Saget would vomit in his mouth almost.
That's
Well,
great.
And
Because
he would do this. He would do these characters that nobody's seen, but if it's just he's the funniest. He's the funniest guy on the planet. That's all I'll say. When he wants to be, but it's not Full House. It's not normal Dave, and
Right.
that's
Right.
what I love about him. And
there's, my parents always said, hey, there's a time and a place, and when I'm with my buddies is the time and the place. I just never thought I could make a living doing that.
it's really funny. I'll tell you a story, and I feel like I'm putting you on the spot, but one time Jeff Ross he had a podcast for a while that was really good called Thick Skin, and Saget was on, and it was the day, like 2 days after Doris Day. Doris Day, right?
Doris Day.
Yeah, Doris Day died. It was 2 days after Doris Day died, and Saget goes, "Oh man, when I was a kid, I had a crush on her. I used to think she was so sexy." And Jeff goes, "Did you want to fuck her?" He goes, "Well, I can't talk about that here." He goes, "Yeah, you can. We're here in my basement. It's all right." And he goes, "No. We're on a podcast, Jeff. It's not the same thing." He went, No, it's okay. It's okay. You can say anything you want." And you saw that side of Saget thinking, "Yeah, I should just do my normal dirty Bob, dirty daddy here and just go for this." And Jeff almost just sucked him into just doing this. Yeah, I wanted to fuck Doris Day my whole life stuff. And he went, no, Bob, I was kidding. Don't. I don't want to hear it. I don't.
Funny.
Well, Bob, I always told people that Bob was my filthy Jewish sister. And he loved that. He loved when I would tell people that. And, I have so many bits that I could only do with Saget. Like this time of the year, right around the holidays, Bob would always call me and sing filthy Christmas songs. So he'd call me up, and if I didn't pick up, he'd leave me a message like, "Suck in your cock, suck in my cock, suck in your cock, suck in my cock. I wanna suck, I wanna suck, I wanna suck, I wanna suck. I am sucking your cock." And it would just go on for 5 minutes, and it was, it made me laugh because it was locker room humor, and I laugh at that stuff, and I laugh at the darkest, dirtiest, filthiest stuff because it just jolts your mind for a second out of reality.
Patrick, years ago, before we got the apartment in Westwood, this was years ago. Dave had this little apartment. First he got his own place in Westwood, and there was this bum, a homeless guy, jerking off in the alley. And he calls Saget and he goes, "Oh my God, Bob, I'm watching a guy jerk off in my alley." And then he calls me, like, I guess like a three-way thing, And, "Oh, Mike, you just missed it. And I'm like,
it was the bat signal.
And Dave was so happy. He was calling us. He was, "You guys, you won't believe it." And he was laughing so hard, and he had us laughing so hard that this bum in full. And I swear to God, I was like, he goes, and he actually said to me, he goes, "You're close enough. Try to get over here. Get over here." I said, "You really think I'm going to jump in the car and try to race across town, across Westwood, to see a guy jack off in your alley?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm telling you, you want to see this."
Oh, it's classic. I love it.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff seemed to follow us around.
Yeah, it was really funny.
Just weird comedy moments used to just follow us. We would Mike and I would be walking somewhere, and it was like all of a sudden something would happen, and we would start riffing on it, and we'd fall down laughing to where we couldn't talk.
What he didn't tell you, what he skipped over is the very first time I ever met Dave. Actually, I think it was the second time. But I had gone out to LA and was doing really well. And Mark Ridley opened the Comedy Castle, and I came back, and I was like his first headliner. And I'm playing the Comedy Castle, and it sold it out. It was like a big event. It was all this press. And Dave was this like new kid who went on before me. And he goes on before me one night. Sorry, I don't know. I got something in my throat. But he kills. He kills to the point where I have trouble following him. Right? He just fucking the crowd loves him. And he comes up afterwards, and he's like, he thinks he's like, I'm going to be mad at him. Right? And I'm like, dude, that was fucking crazy.
Right.
That was fucking crazy how good you did. I'd never seen a guy that new do that well. And I was like, you got to get to LA. You got to get to LA.
Right. It's a pretty humbling experience when you go open a brand new comedy club and the local opener crushes, he just buries you.
Well, and here's the thing I will tell you about Mike. I was pretty afraid. I think I was probably between 18 and 19 years old. I was about ready to turn 19. So I was just starting out. I'd only been doing stand up about 6 months.
Wow.
And here comes Mike, and he had already been on a Norman Lear pilot called Apple Pie, and he'd been on Make Me Laugh. So he was a big deal. And I'd been on some local TV and hadn't done very much. So when I started doing really well, I was up on stage kind of panicking a little bit, like, do I turn the throttles up here? Do I just do what I normally do at this point in my show and really go for it here? And I thought, okay, I have to commit to it. And I did. Then when I saw Mike, I was like apologetic. We're passing the curtain and he's going up as they're introducing him, and he goes, stick around. And we sat down at the end of the show, and he talked to me for like an hour and a half and just said, I'll help you when you come to LA. You're really funny. And at that point, you're doing comedy 6 months. I didn't know if I was really funny. I was this guy, like, am I going to be, I don't even think I'd played in Ohio yet. I'd played in Michigan, like, well, what happens when I go across the Ohio border? They still going to get it?
Right.
And, he helped me, when I got to LA. It was just, and he didn't have to do that, because comics can be very competitive in that, they stake their turf and they kind of hold on to it. And my experience with Mike was completely 180 of that. I mean, he couldn't have been more helpful introducing me to people. He took me to Osco's Disco, which was a place that was doing stand up, just so I could kind of get my sea legs.
Oh, Rodriguez was the house comic, right?
Yeah. And Mike was like, hey, your audition's coming up at the Comedy Store. Let me get you on a couple places so you can tune up, And he didn't have to do that, and I will never forget that, because that, that led me to have the confidence to go on at the Comedy Store on a Monday night and audition. And I'm not so sure I would have had that same amount of confidence had Mike not done that for me.
Yeah, you would have. You were a pretty confident kid. You were a pretty confident kid. But and also, I don't know. We were just instant friends. We were
Yeah.
we were just instant friends, and we made each other laugh. And I remember, and we were so different from each other. That was the other thing. Our acts were different, because I was pretty dirty, and and we were just different, and by the same token, I don't know, I guess just, but I will tell you. Do you remember? Tell Patrick the story about our first big job we ever got, both of us, when we went.
Yeah, it was New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was New Year's Eve, and it was at an underage disco in Flint, Michigan. So, we were going there primarily for the water. And we get hired, and it was $1,000 to do a set.
We each got $1,000.
$1,000. And at that point, I was like, for one show, $1,000. This is crazy. So we went to this disco, and there was not many people there, and it was all underage kids, and it was New Year's Eve, and we're there with our dates, and we did okay. We're out on the dance floor doing a set. We took a limo there. Hey, $1,000, we better take a limo, right?
We took those two girls. We took girls. We had dates.
We were dates. Yeah,
big shots.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. We had dates. I took Janet Rutledge, I think was my date. And and then we went to your dad's place at Moon Lake?
Yeah.
Moon Lake, right, after the show. So we do the shows, and we get our checks, and we're partying, and we're having the greatest time. And we're high-fiving. That was great. $1,000, like, man, that was unbelievable. So then the checks bounce, So,
You guys are out.
I'm like, Mike, what are we going to do, man? I need that $1,000. I've already spent that 1,000.
Spent it on the
And
limo.
Right. It's gone.
so Mike, and this is how young we were then. Mike goes, I'm going to tell my dad.
No, wait, you're forgetting. We call the guy, and the guy goes, I overpaid you guys. You weren't that fucking funny, and this and that. And he goes, too bad.
And so
Oh
Mike,
my God. Yeah.
Mike's dad was a big builder in the Detroit area. He was very well connected in the city. And so Mike tells his dad the story. So I don't know if Mike's dad did some kind of Jewish mafia shit on him or what, but all of a sudden, 2 new checks showed up and they cashed.
Oh,
I
that's
was
awesome.
like, wow, Burt Binder, man.
No, you're forgetting. Mike.
How do I forget?
We drove up there with my dad.
Is that what we did?
We drove up there with my dad. My dad wanted to know the whole story, and he listened to his side and that side. And my dad said, "You're paying these guys. You made a deal. This is bullshit. You pay these guys."
I don't remember going back up there with your dad. I just
Yep.
remember being so happy when my $1,000 cashed.
Yep. He drove back up there, and we went back there, and we sat in the guy's office at his building company, at the guy's company or whatever. And he just talked to my dad. I'd never seen my dad so firm and mad, but calm. Said, "Listen to me, Buster. This is the way it's gonna happen."
Now, let's talk about Mike's dad, Burt Binder, for a second. So early on in the early days when I was a teenager doing stand-up, Mike's dad saw me and he would pull me aside and say, Dave, you're going to make it. You and Mike are both going to make it. Dave, you've just got a likability that is just, you've got a likability up there. People really love you. And I said, you really think so? He goes, no, you've got this certain likability up there. He goes, and that is 90% of it. They like you no matter what you do up there. And I never forgot how much Mike's dad, because my dad came to a show one time and didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did the Tonight Show, and my dad, 2 days later, I call him. I go, did you see it? He goes, yeah. I go, what'd you think? He goes, when are you going back? I watched the next 2 nights and I didn't see you. My dad's a Chrysler guy, right?
Oh my God.
But his dad loved him. His dad was a great guy. Dave's dad was a great guy, but
Some guys just aren't tuned like that. You know?
He didn't understand show
Right.
business in any way, shape, or
Right.
form. And we were aliens to Dave's dad. We really
Right.
were.
Right.
Hey, did you say something? Did you smart off or something when you were there? It's like, no, Dad, I didn't smart off. He goes, well, you must have said
Who
something.
did you upset, Dave? Who did you upset?
Right?
Hey Mike, who did Dave upset over there at that Tonight Show?
Hey, I'm frozen up here. Are you guys
Yeah. 1 sec. Let me see.
frozen?
Just added you back.
See, here's the thing. He built this really fancy house, but he forgot to really put in Wi-Fi. So he's
You there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there we
Here-
go.
he built this really fancy house, and but he forgot to really put in any kind of Wi-Fi. So it's like a hangar. It's an old.
Well, here's the story. We can't get Verizon out here. We can't get Comcast. We can't get Wow. AT&T doesn't have fiber out here. So I got Starlink. I thought, okay, I'll get satellite. Elon Musk, come on, this is gonna be great, right? Well, we got Starlink out here, and they advertise at 120 megabytes per second. I haven't gotten above 50. I'm like, well, apparently they got to finish the constellation up there before I get 120. But it's terrible.
Damn Elon.
Here I
Yeah.
thought,
What the hell?
That's
here I
weird.
thought I was outsmarting everybody,
Yeah.
and came back to bite me. So
But
I'm a
but
really
but I
crappy
will say, listen, it's funny because our dads were completely different, but
yeah.
but my dad did love Dave, and your dad was always so good to me. But
Yeah.
we were just two fucking kids, and our fathers, they were really impressed with what we were doing. They always were, but they didn't, we it was like the farthest thing in the world for them, these two guys getting into show business.
Right.
Yeah, and my dad worked at Chrysler. He was very blue collar. He worked his ass off and put all four of us kids through private schools. And that mentality of going out to Hollywood and being in show business was just so removed, that the first time I took him to see me do stand up, I was playing at a club called it was the Comedy Corner in Windsor. It was run by a guy named Leo
Real
DeFore.
DeFore.
And so I'm getting ready to go. And this is back, I'm 20 years old. And I came back to Detroit after I'd already been a regular at the Comedy Store. I come back to Detroit, and Leo's going to headline me at the Comedy Corner. So I'm actually driving my dad's car. I'm like, hey, Dad, can I borrow the car to go to work, right? So I take my dad's car. Just as I'm pulling out of the driveway, my dad waves me down. He goes, I'm going to go with you. So we drive through Detroit, go under the Windsor Tunnel over to Windsor, Canada. I go up, I headline, I do my set, and it was the first time I ever got a standing ovation. And my dad wouldn't sit down. He's standing in the back next to the coffee machine where the service bar is. So I can kind of see a shadowy figure of my dad back there, and he's just drinking coffee, right? And I get a standing ovation. So I walk off stage, and the crowd's still standing and clapping, and I'm thinking, okay, I got some reserve stuff. I'll come out and I'll do that stuff. So I play around a little bit with the audience, and I walk off again, and they stand up again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. My dad's here. The first time I get a standing ovation, I've got two of them. He's going to go crazy, right? So the audience, I come back out for another encore, and I'm just doing improv with the audience, right? And they're going crazy, and it's just a magical night for me. And it was the first time I ever signed an autograph. Because people were like, hey man, when you're a big star, I want to get your autograph, right? And I'm sitting there signing autographs, and my dad's got his coffee going in the back, taking it all in. So we leave, and I'm driving, and my dad doesn't say anything. We go through customs at the Windsor Tunnel. He doesn't say anything. We drive through Detroit, nothing. We get on the I-94 freeway here in Detroit, nothing. And I can't take it. We get to Chandler Golf Course. I'm like, Dad, geez, what did you, come on. What did you think? He goes, you need a gimmick.
Oh my
God. He goes, a gimmick. He goes, Groucho had the cigar and Jack Benny had the violin. I go, you mean a prop? He goes, you need something. I was like,
you go, Dad, you didn't see the three standing ovations?
It couldn't have, been more out of his orbit what I was trying to do. But that was just my dad, But
he was just a simple, lovable guy. He was just a God, and Patrick. He lived in the house they grew up in to the day he died, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he was just the greatest salt of the earth guy. But and he was so proud of Dave. But I don't even think he really knew exactly why he was proud of Dave. I think he was just proud of Dave just because he didn't get fired,
Well, it's funny because he said, hey, do you have a bunch of pictures? And I said, yeah, okay. So I gave him bunch of pictures. I'm like, what do you need these for? I'll give them out, right? So my dad was the mayor at this little Greasy Spoon restaurant, right? So I go back home, and my dad says, "Hey, sign this. It's for the waitress over there, right? Where I go to breakfast and lunch with your Uncle Don." I go, "Okay," and he goes, "Yeah, sign it. Sign it, Dave Coulier on there." Well, what else would I put up there? You know? Here's another story about my dad. So I like it was probably my 5th year in comedy, and I hosted a show called Out of Control on Nickelodeon. And it was the first year that I made over $100,000 in comedy.
Holy
And
shit!
I
It was
just thought,
5 years. Hold on, it
yeah,
took you only 5 years to make that. That's
it was
unbelievable.
well, it was a TV series. It was a big year for me. I was
Right?
doing tons of cartoon stuff. I was working a lot. I was doing
Yes.
stand up. I did the Tonight Show that same year.
And by
So
the
things-
way, just so you know, he had a book and a journal, and every penny he knew, had receipts for everything.
That's
And
why he
I-
built his own house. He's a beast.
I'm not kidding you, man. Now, I probably at that year made twice that, and I didn't have a fucking penny
Yeah, I
in the
was gonna
bank.
say, yes.
I didn't have a
Negative.
penny. I didn't, and I it was like I blew it all on drugs and alcohol, and I didn't have and I would tease him. I go, "Oh, well, look at this, look at this little book with all the little numbers. Oh, look at you."
I
All
was-
right, well, I cut you off. I'm sorry. It was your first year making
pretty
500
ridiculous.
grand. Yep.
So I come back to Michigan, and I go to my dad's house. My dad needed a new washer, dryer, and a refrigerator. So this is probably 1984. And so I go back. I went to the bank locally here in Detroit, and I got 10 $100 bills, and I put them in an envelope. And my dad's walking me out, and I've had this envelope, and I can't wait to spring it on him, right, to give it to him. And so we're on the side of my dad's house. And I said, "Hey, Dad, I know you need a washer, a dryer, and a refrigerator." I go, "Here, just, this is, I'm doing well, and I want to help you out." And he goes, "What's this?" I go, "Just open it." He's looking at me and looking like, what's going on here, right? He opens the envelope, and he sees the $100 bills there. It was like Fred Sanford. He grabbed his heart. "You're dealing drugs." Oh, you're dealing drugs.
No way.
"No, I'm not, Dad. I had a really good year. I don't want it. Give me that. That's drug money. Get it out of here." And I'm like, "No, Dad, I'm not dealing drugs. I'm doing well, "Oh, Dave, take it. Jeez, you're blowing it as fast as you're making it." And "No,
Oh my
Dad, I
gosh.
just want to say thank you." And he wouldn't take it. And I went back the next day, and he goes, "I thought about that. And I'm sorry. I'm happy that you're doing good. You don't have to give me any money, though." I go, "Well, Dad, look, we're in this together." I said, "You put me through private schools. I played travel hockey, And so it was hard for him because of his pride. But he did the, "I'm coming, Elizabeth," like just the Fred
And
Sanford.
I will tell you, he was the sweetest guy, and your
He
mom,
was.
Harlan, they were both of your parents were just amazing. And my dad loved Dave. He would say that to me. He'd say, "Mike, Dave's going to be so successful. He's just got it. Dave's got it." And I'd say, "Okay, Dad, I got it. You said that enough times.
What up, Dad? Yeah.
All right, I get it, Dad." No, but no, he did. He just and my dad. I remember when you did that. Dave had this. This is as a kid. He got this like low budget talk show called Out of Control that they shot at this little studio in a strip mall way out in the valley. They could have been shooting porn out there. It was this junky little, but they shot this great little and thing, and he hosted his own show, and he had no experience doing it, but he was so good from the get-go. He just had it. And it was really a great show. It was called Out of Control, and but Dave was so good at it. And I remember showing it to my dad, and he goes, "Can you imagine how he's going to be with time?" I said, "No, it's amazing."
And that little boy turned out to be Merv Griffin.
That little boy turned out to be. Uh, let me tell you something. I and then I remember I was with Dave. I think we talked about this on your podcast, which, by the way, I'm on Dave's podcast tomorrow. Comes out tomorrow. Dave has his own
Yeah,
podcast.
and you were a great guest. You were a great guest, and we're it's called Full House Rewind, and we shoot it like.
And he does all kinds of pussy and fart and gay jokes, and
Sure,
he
I'm
does
sure it's filled.
retard jokes.
But Mike came on as a guest. He's in the first 10 shows that we shot. And it was really important for me to have Mike there because he was at the very beginning of my journey and he's been such a big part of my life. And he was actually on Full House as a guest star actor. And, it's funny because we started the series, we did gangbuster numbers, and then the SAG strike happened. And SAG asked us if we would step down, and we wanted to honor our, fellow SAG members. So we stopped. So now we're starting back up again with these new episodes. And it's in a lot of ways, it's kind of like we're trying to do something different in the podcast world by shooting it like a TV show with puppets and characters and voices and things. And so it's a little different spin on a podcast in that it's very visual. But it's funny how the trolls hit you up. Like, this has nothing to do with Full House. Why is it called Full House Rewind? And I'm like, just haters, give us time. We're doing something different here. We recap. We're doing all 192 Full House episodes. So we do a brief recap. We've got Comet, the dog, as a puppet on the show. We've got Mr. Woodchuck on the show. We've got my answering machine that calls me and leaves funny voice messages. So we're trying to do something really different and unique, a little bit of Pee-wee's Playhouse with Full House. And so we're kind of going through this rebirth now where we're reintroducing the show to our audience. And it's slowly rising back up to the top, which is interesting because that's exactly what happened to Full House.
Well, I'll tell you why I think it's going to work too. And I know it's going to work. I know it's going to work because it's like everything you've ever done, Dave. You're so yourself. You're so authentically Dave. And you knew that instinctively as a kid because who you are and you're such a well-rounded guy, and that your podcast is just you doing all your tricks and all your games and all the things you like, and
that's what I call them, tricks.
And the people that you love bringing on, and you open your heart up, and you're not afraid to be who you are, and that's why people love you. That's why, from right from the very beginning. That's why you did get standing ovations because there was no mask with you. The audience knew exactly who you were, and they loved you. And I think I remember when you got the script for Full House, I read it. I said, if you get this part, you're gonna get this, and this will be a hit show, and it's perfect for you. And you brought all your own stuff to that show. You brought all your Davisms, and people loved it. That's a big reason why that show worked, because just Uncle Joey was just Dave.
Well, we're living in a really cynical world where it's very easy to hide behind, social media and loft hand grenades over the fence anonymously, And with that being said, I really wanted to keep the spirit alive of Full House, a show where we told ourselves that we loved ourselves, and we said that to the fellow actors on the stage with us. We really did love love our castmates on Full House, and you can't fake that. You either have that kind of chemistry or you don't, and we just naturally had it with the cast of Full House. So when it'd be very easy to do a cynical show about Full House and say, oh, they had a weird elephant in the living room. Like, what was that all about? I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to tap into the love that is Full House. I tell the audience how much we love them. Thank you for supporting us. And it's just kind of, Full House has become kind of like video comfort food for people for generations. And I really wanted Full House Rewind to reflect that. And so that's what we're doing in a very cynical world. It's going to take some time for people to gravitate towards us, because we're not the brightest light in the podcast universe, but we're a steady, warm light. And that's really what I want to convey to people.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not a controversial thing. It's not a hot button thing, but you're the fans are there, and you're gonna draw. Just your energy is the right energy, and one thing that I've really learned just watching podcasts and when I did that documentary on the Comedy Store and really interviewing all the guys that had the hit podcasts, it's all about consistency. It's all about staying with it and just, thing. And that's something that it falls right into your wheelhouse, Dave. You're not a guy that needs smoke and mirrors and fireworks. You can be consistent. You can stay steady as you go, and it's a perfect venue for you. So I
Well,
think
thanks, Mike. Makes me happy to hear you say that. And you were a great guest on the show. I can't wait.
I
for
know
people
I
to-
was, Dave.
I
Let me
know.
tell you
Yeah.
something.
You know, you
I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm surprised you haven't had me back already. But that's just because you're in your own little fucking world, and I'm Davey Coulier, and I was on Full House, and but I was a great goddamn guest. Oh, sorry. No, wait. Let me calm down.
well, I'm glad you got that out of your system. With you said, you touched on something really interesting, Mike.
Wait, I
About
touched what?
You know what I mean.
Okay.
We were roommates for a long time, and
Okay.
people would say, "Are you sleeping with Mike?" I'd say, "No, I'm awake all night, one eye open, one eye open. Where is he?" so anyhow, you touched on something really interesting when you said, a consistency in a podcast. Tom Miller, who was one of our Full House executive producers, produced Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, Full House, Family Matters. The list goes on and on and on. He was a brilliant television producer, the team of Miller and Boyette. And Tom Miller, I was talking with him one time, and he said, Dave, this was after we kind of discovered the formula that was Full House, which was, it wasn't about three guys raising three little girls. It was about a family unit. And once we kind of established that in all of our minds, that's when the show started to really gel and become a big hit. And Tom Miller said, the reason we're going that way, Dave, is that families come in all different shapes, sizes, and colors. And what we want to bring to the audience is the same thing every episode. He said, because in television, familiarity breeds familiarity. And it made total sense when he explained that to me. And I think what you just touched on, Mike, is that's the same rule, I think, for any show, is that people want to be able to come back to their show where it's familiar and the rhythms and the content and kind of what the arc of the show is. And I think what you said is 100% true.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but when you told me you were going to do this podcast, I said that's a perfect world for you, you know, and and I just feel like honestly, I personally think you could do anything, I don't want to talk out of school, but I think you've got an idea for a show that I think is brilliant, a sitcom or a comedy show, and I really I think one thing about you is that I don't think I feel like there's so much still left in the tank, you know. I really do. I think there's so much left in the tank.
Can
I,
you tell my wife Melissa that, please?
she knows. Melissa
Please.
knows. She knows. Believe me, she knows. But and I mean that, Dave. I don't think I think I think you're you know there's a lot still to come up from Davey Coulier. That's and Pat. So here the other thing is, when I started doing stand up again, I was like, Dave, I'm going to do these Detroit comedy jams, which I'm bringing back. I want you to do it because we used to do all these Detroit comedy jams, and we did an HBO special, Dave and I, and Howie Mandel and Paul Rodriguez, and we did all these dates, and we used to do all these great concerts. And Mike, I'm not doing stand up anymore. I said, hey, Dave, I've been down that road. You're going to be back doing stand up. And I was going to Detroit. I was going to do this thing with Jeff Ross, and I couldn't go at the last minute, but Dave went anyway. Dave and Mel went and saw Jeff Ross, and they loved it. And Jeff had Dave jump up on stage, and like a couple of days later, Dave's like, Mike, I think I'm thinking about maybe.
Yeah, I got some jokes.
I guarantee you, Dave will be back doing stand up.
I was going to ask,
see.
when's the last time you were on stage, Dave?
I did a U.S. Air Force tour a couple of years ago. I did 24 U.S. Air Force bases, and it was hard. It was hard, because I hadn't been on stage for a while, and I said, "Yeah, I'll do this tour," but I had to jump up on local comedy stages here in Michigan and ramp up because they wanted a 90-minute show. And so, in order to do that, you can't go up for 90 minutes and goof around. You can't do the Charlie Sheen tour.
Stand up comedy, you stand up. If you want to be great at stand up comedy, you got to be all in.
Yeah, and I know how much work if I had an hour and a half, I would be playing venues right now. I would be playing. I would be playing performing arts centers, and which I've played everywhere from 75,000 seats down to 2 people. I mean, I've played everywhere. And I loved it, but I know how much work it takes to be great at it, and you can't go up on stage and try and fool people because they will tell you they are an instant barometer. They will let you know right away if you're just walking through it. And I don't want to ever do that. I want to be really good. And that takes so much work. That is, and so for me, I've done it for so many years where it's like, I kind of like where I'm at now, doing this podcast, and things are really comfortable, and I don't have to get on a plane and stay in a hotel room and, record myself and then write a joke and, try it umpteen times until it works. That's a really difficult, hard process. I watched Dave Chappelle last night, his new special.
Yep.
And
he did a lot of your stuff. He did a lot of
your
stuff. I saw Dave Chappelle. He was spitting water. I saw him doing shit. He did a lot of the stuff that you used to do on Out of Control.
Oh, I know.
Dave
I know.
Chappelle stole a lot of your stuff, Dave.
Yeah, I was the first comedian to use the N word like that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
You know,
He's got a lawsuit
you
coming.
know,
Boy,
yeah.
and that's the other thing. Yeah, when we lived together, Dave used the N word constantly. So Chappelle stole that from Dave.
Yeah, but back then it was nutsack. It wasn't
Yeah.
what it was different. You nutsack.
By the
But
way,
I
Dave
want
was the first guy I knew that had his sack redone. He had a whole sack job. He went to the best guy in Beverly Hills, and he had. Didn't you tell him about that? You had a beautiful sack job done.
Got to
I
tighten up.
had, because I grew up Catholic. I had the word sacrilegious put on my ball sack with a little cross. Yeah.
So what were you
And-
saying about Chappelle? Sorry.
So I watched Dave Chappelle's special, and I mean, he's just so comfortable talking. And it's masterful the way he weaves a premise to where there's a punchline at the very end or a callback. It's really brilliant. And I was watching him going, that's what I need to do. I don't need to go up and have a joke every 30 seconds,
Right.
You've got to be able to have that confidence to where you just go up and you are yourself. And Gary Shandling told me that. He goes, Dave, you'll be a great stand-up when you can go on stage and be 100% yourself. That's when you're going to be your funniest. And that's what Gary always tried to accomplish. But Dave Chappelle at Bob Saget's memorial came up to me and he said, Dave, how you doing? Dave Chappelle. And I go, hi, Dave, how are you? And he goes, I just want to tell you something. He said, when I was watching you and Bob Saget back in the day, you guys inspired me. He goes, because I was a young man. I was just starting out. And he goes, and I saw two stand-up comics on a TV series. And he said, that inspired me. And he goes, I look up to you guys. I still look up to you guys. And it's funny because no matter where you are in comedy, there's those guys you look up to. Because I think Dave Chappelle is a superstar. I think he is the best stand-up comic right now. I think he's the best of the best. Even though I love Bill Burr, I love Chris Rock, I love the work those guys do. Chappelle he's on a roll right now where he's doing something really that transcends stand-up, and it was really cool to see. But the guys we looked up to, me and Mike, we had Richard Pryor and George Carlin and David Letterman and Jay Leno. But in our class was Seinfeld, Saget, Shandling, Dennis Miller, Louis Anderson, Howie Mandel, Jim Carrey. That was our class. So no matter what class you're in, you always look up to those upperclassmen and revere them and get inspired by them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Couldn't have agreed more. Like you couldn't have said it better myself. I love, especially like as a stand-up fan. I don't do stand-up, but I just am such a big fan of it. So the history of it is really important to me, and it's like it goes a long way, I think, for your career if you know who's came before you and how funny they were and like how they changed history or entertainment for the better. I mean, and I hate to say it, but that's not a lot of comics these days, just with social media. But you're so right. It's like it's really important to remember just who the greats are in every class, and I think that's such a cool part of the comedy world of like everybody having a class of who they came up together.
Yeah, and there was a time, when social media and YouTubers, were trying to do comedy clubs and they would sell out, but they had no act. I remember playing the Chicago Improv, and the owner says, he goes, I got to tell you, I'm embarrassed. And I said, what? He goes, well, I love stand-up comedy. I love owning this club. He says, but you want to fill the seats. You want to make money. I said, yeah. He goes, so a few weeks ago, I had this guy who was a YouTuber, and I guess he dresses up in a bunny costume and he prances around on stage doing this, and he sings a bunny song. He said his show sold out 4 shows in minutes at like $75 a ticket. This is at the Improv. That's a pretty stiff ticket for the Improv. He goes, and I watched his show. He comes out to the bunny song, hops around. The women, it's all women in the audience. They're going crazy. He does the song for 2.5 minutes, and that was it. He signed autographs after that on the stage. He goes, and I was just embarrassed. He said it was just awful. And I said, yeah, but we're in a time.
Tell him the truth of the story. You went, oh, fuck. That guy used to be my roommate, Mike Binder.
But that was a time when people were getting their entertainment in a way. But my point is that stand-up is back, more prominent than ever. Because why? Because people need it. Because stand-ups tear away at that social strata that exists, where everybody's thinking it, but the comic will say it. And we need that as a society. I don't think people realize how important that release is.
Yeah. By the way, just if you're watching, this is not a technical malfunction. Every now and then, Dave just freezes up as a human being.
That's me. That's me. Me and Elon here.
No. It's, by the way, that's, him, holding in that sexual dysfunction that he's got. And it just,
it's more of a dysphoria. Yeah.
Dysphoria.
Yeah, it's more of a sexual.
Oh, he's back. He's back. He's not unfrozen.
Yes, I'm unfrozen. But what I was saying was, we need comedy right now because we're at a time where we're trying to even the playing field. Everybody's the same, and we're not. And we need to talk about our differences because they're funny. And we need to describe why certain cultures do certain things and other cultures don't, and why they're so polar opposite. That is funny. And to me, with the way we're trying to homogenize our society right now it's a real bummer when you think about it, because this next generation isn't going to have a Don Rickles. They're not going to have a Richard Pryor. They're not going to have a Sam Kinison. Thank God we still have a guy like Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr and Chris Rock, Sarah Silverman. Thank God we have those kinds of comedians who will say the things that we all need to hear. It's very, very important.
But listen, Dave, I don't mean to be contradictory, but I just think this generation does. I mean, they've got Shane Gillis and they've got Jeff Ross and they've got, I mean, it never ends. I just got a little bit of a boo-hoo when I hear comedians talk about cancel culture, comedians. I don't think I see guys. I can give you 10 guys, Adam Hunter. I mean, guys that I see at the
I'm not saying that doesn't exist.
That can
I'm
say
saying it's great that it does.
And I say whatever the hell I want. I do jokes about anything I want. I think it's all in people's heads. There's no cancel culture for comedians. It's when comedians do things off stage. And by the way, yeah, people can whine, but it doesn't do them any good. I mean, look at how hard they whined on Chappelle. He got 4 more specials out of it. It's funny is funny, and I think there's some brilliant comedians coming up. Brilliant, and they're clean. Nate Bargatze, clean as hell.
Great comic.
Dirty as hell. Sam Talent. I mean. There's just so many. Leanne Morgan, clean as hell. Brad, but it just we're in a new golden age. We're right in the middle of a new golden age.
Oh, I know. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I was saying, not that it doesn't exist, but for the people that don't want that are poo-pooing, someone who's outspoken, it's a real shame because you're never going to be able to experience that height of funny.
Right.
Dave, just give me a good dick joke. Just let it go. Just give me a real locker room, Dave. Me and Mike hang. No, you don't want.
Let's
it. I
see.
get it.
What have I got? Have I got anything?
No, I don't want to put you on the spot because
Oh.
you know there's a good 40 people listening.
And 39 of them are Full House fans.
Yeah, I don't. But man, Dave, man, I will say if you're listening, this guy when he goes off, the other Dave that only his buddies see, his buddies know, it's just otherworldly funny.
Funny like how? Huh? Like a clown or something? Like I entertain you? Huh?
Yeah.
Funny like how? Unbelievable, this guy. Unbelievable. Oh, I don't know. He used to have hair. Unbelievable. I don't know. I've been sitting here. I'm waiting for the funny to start. That's what I'm saying. That's Vito. He's my buddy over there. How you doing, Vito? Yeah, you too.
Okay, so I'll tell you here's a good story, Pat. Then I'll let Dave go. Years ago, I'm going over to buy Coke at my drug dealer's house, who's a comedian. I'm not going to say his name. He was a comedian, and Dave goes with me. Dave never actually. Dave happened to be with me, but I'm picking up some drugs, and so we go to this apartment in Hollywood, and the guy is so paranoid. Don't bring anybody with you. Don't ever bring anyone to my apartment.
Yeah.
But Dave was with me. I think he drove me and whatever. So, and I told Dave, I said, just be quiet. Don't say anything because he's really paranoid. And Dave knew him. He's a comedian. Okay, it was Alan Bursky. Okay. So,
Yeah, well, I was saying, why are you holding this back? It's not like the cops are going to arrest him now.
all right. So anyway, there's all these intercoms with everyone's apartment there. So I push his thing and I go, hey, Alan, how you doing? I'm here. He goes, you're alone, right? Dave goes, well, he's Mr. Leno is with him too. And he goes into this incredible Jay Leno impression.
No way.
And Bursky goes, what? And then tell him what else you did.
I did Bruce Baum. So, Bursky, what's going on up there, by gosh? And then I did.
Shanling's here too, Alan.
Hey, Alan. I got something up my ass. And I did this other comedian no one would know, probably Joe Napoti. My God, Bursky, I can't believe it. Get down here with Binder's Coke.
He did everybody at the comedy store, and Bursky is flipping out. He goes, you go to the back window alone right now. He's so mad.
Oh my God.
Around to the back window. He goes, you brought Leno and Bruce Baum and Gary Shandling and Joe Napoti and all these people to my fucking house. I don't want you to bring anybody. I go, it's just Dave Coulier.
Oh my God. How did he take it?
When he found out it was just Dave, he calmed down.
Oh my God. That's hilarious. I can't imagine how paranoid that guy was.
Yeah, that was a fun trick. I have done that a few times on people. I wanted to find out what my new agents thought of me, and they were in the same building as Brillstein Entertainment with Bernie Brillstein and Brad Gray. And so Brad was my manager, and I had just signed with this new agent named Joe Rice, and I called Joe as Brad Gray. I was like, Joe, how you doing? He goes, oh, hi, Brad. And Brad was very powerful. He was getting very powerful at this particular time. And so,
that's an amazing impression, by the way.
Yeah.
He goes, what can I do for you, Brad? He goes, well, you've had my you've had my client, Dave Coulier, for a week now, and nothing. What have you gotten him? He goes, oh, well, Brad, we love Dave. I mean, what do you mean? He goes, he's been there a week. I haven't gotten a phone call, no jobs, nothing. Why would he want to be there with you? Listen, I'll walk down right now to your office. We can talk about this. I'm like, no, I don't give a fuck. Like, you're terrible. Like, why would I send one of my guys over to you and nothing happens? Brad, I'll come down right now, right? And Ray Rio, who was another manager, was listening in. He was good friends with Joe Rice. And Ray I can hear Ray cracking up. He's laughing so hard because Joe is panicked and wants to come down and talk to Brad immediately. And so Joe hears Ray laugh. He goes, is that Ray? I know that laugh. Ray, are you laughing at me? And Ray goes, Dave, should we just tell him? And Joe goes, what is going on here? And Ray is laughing so hard. He goes, I've got Dave Coulier. He goes, that was Dave the whole time. And Joe goes, fuckers, I'm coming down there right now. And he walked down to the floor, and he just couldn't believe that I had his pants pulled so far down.
That's
But
awesome.
it was Ray Rio talked about that for years. He goes, that was the best prank I've ever been part of. But
It's a
boy,
great impression too.
That's hysterical.
Dave, it's Brad. How are you? There's no deal. Everything was a deal with Brad. I'm trying to put a deal together right now. So
To
I'll
this
call you
day,
back.
to this day, whenever my wife we talk about Brad, she goes, "There's no deal, Mike. There's no deal. There was a deal that we were talking, but there's no deal." All right, listen,
Yeah.
Dave, I'm going to let you go, but I love you so much, and I can't wait to see my episode that is going to probably be the highest rated one of all
It
yours.
is,
Yeah, and
without question.
and what you should do is just have me on every week. And
Geez, I'm losing you guys again. Man, look at that. huh?
It's going down
Boy, I
fast.
can't even hear these guys.
the podcast is called Full House Rewind, and you can get it everywhere. It's on YouTube, and it's really a great podcast.
Thank you.
Check out. I love the episode with Jeff Franklin. I mean, you got to go if you haven't seen that. It's just so great, and the John Stamos one.
And then we do deep dives. I talk with a lot of guests that I probably would have not ever met.
Dave,
in my
let me
lifetime.
sell. Let me sell. This is the part where I
Okay,
sell.
all right.
Okay, Jesus. The Full House Rewind decoder ring is available at Amazon.com. You can get those, and the coffee mugs and the Full House butt plug. The Full House Rewind butt plug is so comfortable. You can actually wear it to the supermarket, and they will not even know you're wearing it. It's so great.
Yes, and we have women's wear called full blouse.
The full blouse.
And, full blouse. Yeah, it's great stuff. Mike's gonna probably wear some of it.
Oh, I'm wearing my cut it out. Stamos.
There you go. Look at that. Cut it out shirt.
I wore this with Stamos on. He goes, yeah, it's too tight. All right. But listen, buddy, I love you. I love the podcast. I'm so happy for you. And you're the best. I can't wait to see the episode. It comes out tomorrow. This comes out tomorrow. So if you're watching this or listening to this, and go and get the podcast and just start listening to Full House Rewind. It's so much fun. And it's pure Dave. It's pure Dave. That's what I love about it.
There's a lot of love in this room.
Well, you know how much I love you, Dave.
I love you too, brother.
All right. episode 55, Dave Coulier. Love it, man. If you're in Detroit listening, February 16th and 17th, I'm going to be at the Cambria Hotel, bringing back the Detroit Comedy Jam. 16th and 17th, go to Eventbrite. You'll see all the details. I'll be coming out in the next week or so with some big names I'm bringing back every month. I'm going to be doing a residency in Detroit. And this Sunday night, I'm at the Improv with Jimmy Shin in the Jimmy Shindig. Go to jimmyshindig.com. Some great lineup. Bobby Lee and Tom Arnold and just so many people. Craig Robinson. It's a great lineup. But watch. I'll give you all the details on these Detroit shows. I'm going to try to get Dave on them too. So, wow. That's it. Episode 55. We're up. All Apple, Spotify, standupworld.com, YouTube. We're growing, we're showing, we're sewing. Patrick's doing a great job producing this thing, and we love you guys. Your support means so much. So thank you very much.